What is going on, ladies and gents? Today I'm coming through with my entire main card predictions for UFC 325. And yeah, man, it's coming up in a couple weeks. I'm excited, but let's just get straight into it. Without further ado, starting off with our first fight at lightweight, it's going to be Rong Zhu versus Quillen Salkeld. And I think this is a pretty easy pick for me. I think Quillen Salkeld is going to win without much adversity. Quillen Salkeld, man, I regard him pretty highly. I think he's honestly got potential to be within the top 15, maybe even top 10 of that division at lightweight. I think he's very, very well-rounded, very good. You know, I like Australian fighters, man. I like the vibe that they bring. They're all just cool, chill dudes, and I like the way they fight. They're all, pretty, exciting. You know, JDM, Volk, Quillen Salkeld, all these guys, man, they're just cool, bro. I fuck with them, and Quillen Salkeld, very well-rounded, nice power on the feet, very, very good kicks. Just in general, I watched some tape on him before this, seeing those regional fights and seeing, just his accomplishments so far in the UFC. He's really good at whipping up those lead kicks, those lead head kicks and body kicks. He's really fast with them. He can do it without much telegraph, and they really can just catch an opponent off guard. And he's got good kicking dexterity. He can teep to the head super well and super slick to gauge distance as well. Good leg kicks, and he's got a good switch body kick off that back foot as well. And all very powerful tools that he's got. Obviously, we just saw him sleep Nasrat Haqparast very quickly with a head kick. And yeah, man, good technical striker. He's got decent boxing as well. Good power on the feet. And yeah, he's very well-rounded. He's got good blast double legs as well. We've seen him take down opponents before and kind of be able to land some good, solid ground and pound as they're able to, try to get up. They leave openings, and Quillen Salkeld really takes advantage of those moments, and he's able to land good ground and pound shots behind the ear, stuff like that. And yeah, haven't seen much of a submission game from him so far, but in general, he's a very, very well-rounded fighter, and I think that he's going to be able to get through Rong Zhu pretty easily. Rong Zhu's he's a blocky blockhead, bro. He's kind of just he stands there, just swings and trades with you. He just likes to stand and bang. He's not super technical at all. Got okay, decent power. I don't think he's going to be able to hurt or even land on Quillen Salkeld super cleanly at all in this fight. We saw him get rocked by Cody Steele, I believe that's his name. He also rocked Cody Steele back when they fought. That was just a war. That was just a scrap, bro. This guy is a scrapper through and through. Not super technical at all on the feet. And again, kind of just wings big hooks and big overhands. And I just feel like he's a very simple fighter. Doesn't have much of a ground game at all. I feel like Quillen Salkeld, if he wants, can take him down and just land good ground and pound as well and really damage him up and mince him up on the ground. Rong Zhu doesn't do much work off of his back either. And he's just not much of a danger to Quillen Salkeld. And also Salkeld is just a good bit taller than him as well. He's going to have a significant height and reach advantage. And yeah, overall, I think that Quillen Salkeld can just kind of take this fight wherever he wants it. Rong Zhu is pretty tough. I actually think that Quillen Salkeld won't just knock him out or anything. I don't think he actually finishes him. I think that he's a tough blockhead, bro. He's got a bit of a chin. So I think that Quillen Salkeld is going to just outstrike him, piece him up, do whatever he wants, and kind of just beat him super easily, 30-27, maybe even get a 10-8 round in there. But yeah, just piece him up at range, do whatever he wants, and just maybe even get a takedown at some point. But it's going to be a very definitive Quillen Salkeld victory, guys. Let's move on to Tai Tuivasa versus Thaleson Teixeira. Heavyweight fight. And yeah, dude, Tai Tuivasa's cooked, bro. He's so cooked. I can't pick him to win any fights against any, okay ranked fighters. And Thaleson Teixeira, he's pretty athletic for a heavyweight, right? He's a very, very tall dude. Got a long reach and very significant reach advantage actually over Tai Tuivasa, and he's definitely more athletic, bro. He can whip up pretty decent head kicks for a heavyweight, pretty fast as well. Very long, tall guy. We've seen him come through and just chin guys by landing a big cross through the guard. And I can totally see that sequence happening. I can see him just stepping through, landing a big cross, just catching Tai Tuivasa in the chin and just dropping him and then falling up on the ground. Ref kind of just steps in and the fight's over with. Thaleson Teixeira wins. I can kind of see that sequence happening. And yeah, I can't really pick Tai Tuivasa to win. Even if he, somehow is able to catch Thaleson Teixeira on the feet, hurt him, because he can, right? He has the power to do that. But even if he does that, I just can't trust him to get the finish or even follow up. I feel like Thaleson Teixeira's got decent recovery, right? Against Derek Lewis, obviously, I know that Thaleson Teixeira got chinned by Derek Lewis. But in that fight, I will say the stoppage was a little bit questionable. Thaleson Teixeira was getting up. He was in the process of getting up. He was kind of trying to defend. although Lewis was landing a lot on him, he was on his feet by the time the ref stopped the fight. So, yeah, man, I feel like Tai Tuivasa doesn't really have anything on the ground for Thaleson Teixeira. He's not really going to be able to follow him down at all, even if he drops him or hurts him. But I don't even see him doing that. I don't think Tai Tuivasa lands cleanly on Thaleson Teixeira at all. I feel like Teixeira is going to piece him up at range, stay at range with good kicks, good leg kicks and body kicks, and eventually just find him on the feet and finish him by KO, probably round 1. But let's move on to Rafael Fiziev versus Mauricio Rufy, guys. I'm excited for this fight. This is low-key like the people's main event. To me, I feel like this is going to be a war. It's going to be a very entertaining fight. And a lot of people are picking Rufy, man. I see a lot of people are still on that, Fighting Nerds hype. And I will say, actually, the Fighting Nerds might be a little bit underrated at this point, now that they've lost all their aura, now that all of them have kind of lost fights. Now I feel like a lot of people are saying they kind of suck, but I also see a lot of people picking Mauricio Rufy in this fight just because, Fiziev hasn't looked super great in his past couple performances either. But I will be picking Fiziev in this fight, guys. I feel like the problem with Mauricio Rufy is that he is a good striker. I will give the power advantage to Mauricio Rufy. I feel like he makes it look a lot more effortless. Like, you see opponents react a lot more when they get hit by Rufy versus when Fiziev's opponents get hit by Fiziev. Even in instances where Fiziev kind of hurts or rocks his opponents, where he rocks RDA, stuff like that, it's kind of like he's putting his whole body, he's like, he's grunting and throwing everything into the shot. And at that point, he might be able to rock his opponent. But Rufy he does make it look pretty effortless when he's able to land clean. That short hook that he landed on James Lontop, it was at like a super weird angle. It was kind of like it was a super weird shot. It was kind of like a half uppercut, half hook. He was kind of just leaning back. Very short hook. I wouldn't expect it to hurt anyone, but he's able to just chin James Lontop and just lay him flat out on his back. Very impressive stuff. And yeah, he's got good kicks. Overall, he's a very loose and technical striker, but I do think that Rafael Fiziev can match that technicality on the feet. They're both very, very fast. Fiziev is also one of the fastest lightweights. We saw him just be a lot faster than Gaethje in the first round of their first fight together. And even in the second fight, I will say that first fight was much more of a scrap, and I'm talking about Rafael Fiziev versus Justin Gaethje 1. It was much more of a war than their second fight. They were both landing a lot more on each other, and they were both kind of really committing to get just big knockouts. They were both just swinging for the fences, man. And, yeah, I do think that Fiziev, the one thing that he showed me in that fight, especially against Gaethje, both times, but especially in the first fight, is that he's got a chin, man. He's very, very durable. He's underratedly durable, I will say. And Gaethje was hitting him with big shots. In those later rounds when Gaethje kind of took over the fight, he was landing constant uppercuts. He was really just landing at will. Landed a ton of uppercuts, bloodied Fiziev's face up, landed good jabs, hard, stiff jabs on Fiziev. And Fiziev just stayed in there and kept swinging, man, which I really respect. And he really showed that he's a tough out. And even in the second fight, when he got dropped by Gaethje, he kind of it wasn't like a super oh no, he's about to get finished, he's hurt bad. He got dropped, but he was kind of still in there, right? He was kind of dazed. It was a flash knockdown. He was able to just scramble back up, and Gaethje wasn't really able to do much on the ground or, even get to close to kind of finishing Fiziev. Overall, I think that Fiziev has pretty good recovery, and I think that Mauricio Rufy, even if he's able to catch Fiziev with something big, hurt him, I doubt that he wants to follow Fiziev to the ground because Fiziev does have underrated grappling, bro. Fiziev has underrated grappling. I think that, his takedown entries are actually pretty decent, although he doesn't show it much. And his jiu-jitsu overall is not bad at all. It's pretty decent. And even though he can't really utilize it super well at a high level, it is there, man. And he definitely has, honestly, a better ground game than fucking Justin Gaethje. And I think that after that last performance against BSD that Mauricio Rufy had, Rufy's going to be a lot more careful on the ground. I'm sure he's worked on that ground game. I'm sure he's worked on his submission defense especially, as well as his takedown defense. I just don't think that he wants to play that ground game with Rafael Fiziev at all. If he were to drop him at all, I think that he would kind of just let Fiziev back up and they would continue to strike. And I just trust in Fiziev more to go the distance, land better shots. I feel like it's going to be a clean kickboxing battle. And I see Fiziev just winning a decision over time. I kind of see a similar fight between these two guys as Ethan Ewing versus Malcolm Wellmaker. That fight really comes to mind for me, where Ethan Ewing really was just landing better shots across the entire fight. It was competitive. Both guys were landing, but Ethan Ewing was just way heavier on the volume. Same with this fight. I feel like Fiziev is just going to be a lot more volume heavy, a lot more active, be able to just land a lot more strikes. Good leg kicks, body kicks, even whip up some head kicks, come in with good uppercuts and hooks, land good knees in the clinch even. And I just see Rafael Fiziev kind of just landing a lot more. Mauricio Rufy will land decent shots as well, but they'll be too few and far between, and Fiziev will just win based on activity and landing the better shots. So I think that Rafael Fiziev does win this fight, probably 29-28. 3-2 kind of rounds, if I had to guess. But yeah, man, I am picking Rafael Fiziev by or not 3-2, what am I talking about? 2-1, right? 29-28 decision for Rafael Fiziev. But let's move on to Dan Hooker versus BSD, guys. Guys, I watched a lot of tape in this fight, man. I hope you guys can appreciate that, I did go back. I watched a good amount of fights for all these fighters in preparation for this breakdown. Dan Hooker, I watched this fight against Mateusz Gamrot. I watched BSD versus Poirier as well. What I can say is that both these guys are honestly very slow. Both these guys are very slow. Dan Hooker especially likes to build into the fight. Against Gamrot, he got taken down early. His takedown defense kind of got better as he went throughout the fight. He was able to really sprawl and stuff those takedowns later on, when both those guys were kind of like gassed out a little bit more. Both of those guys were just a lot more telegraphed with their shots. Just it was a lot more sloppy of a fight later on. And at that point, Dan Hooker was able to stuff a lot of Gamrot's takedowns. But early, Gamrot was taking Dan Hooker down a couple times. Dan Hooker's takedown defense isn't the best, if I'm being honest. I know Gamrot's a great pure wrestler, but Dan Hooker's takedown defense also isn't the best. He's been taken down on multiple occasions by many different fighters that he's faced. And yeah, I think that BSD is going to be able to take down Dan Hooker. And that's why I worry for Dan Hooker, because Hooker, like, he kind of gets mauled a little bit on the ground. A lot of people are able to just land good ground and pound shots on him. He kind of just takes it. Like, he doesn't really, like, he's not the best at fighting to, like, explode his way back up, because he's never been, like, a super explosive fighter. And a lot of the times when he's stuck on bottom, he can't really do much about it, and he kind of just gets hammered. Even in those early, rounds against Mateusz Gamrot, when he would try to scramble and get back up, he would give up a lot of bad positions. He would give up his neck. He would give up his back en route to, getting back to his feet. And he can do that against a guy like Gamrot, because, let's be honest, Gamrot's never going to get a submission over anyone, right? Like, no hatred, no offense at all to Gamrot. He's a great fighter, but you're not submitting anyone at a high level at lightweight in the UFC, right? So Dan Hooker can kind of just rely on just getting back up. At one point, he was even stuck in a guillotine, like pressed up against the fence by Gamrot. He kind of just popped his head out. Gamrot doesn't have a great guillotine at all. BSD is a different story, bro. BSD is a big guy. He's very physically bearing, like overbearing. I think that he's going to be able to physically overwhelm Dan Hooker a lot of the times on the ground. I think he'll land takedowns, really be able to ride Dan Hooker up against the fence and gas him out, land good shots on the ground, and be able to get into dominant positions, like get a guillotine or take his back and try to, hunt for a rear naked choke, something like that. And I can honestly see BSD getting an early, like round 1, round 2 sub. If it gets later into the fight, I can even see BSD chinning Dan Hooker. I feel like Dan Hooker at this point, he's taken a lot of damage, a ton of damage, right? He's gone through wars with Dustin Poirier. It took a big head kick. It took a lot of damage against Jalen Turner. I can name more examples, but Dan Hooker's just been through a lot of stuff, man. He's taken a lot of damage throughout his career. Even like on the feet, I kind of worry for Hooker as well, because BSD, he's got a good body kick. He doesn't have too many weapons on the feet, but I will say his body kick is very clean, very smooth, and I can see him landing that on Dan Hooker, who has been susceptible to body kicks in the past. Those have drained his gas tank, like we saw against Edson Barboza. I know Barboza is like an insanely good kicker, especially in his prime. He was a very, very good kicker. But I feel like if BSD can invest the body with those kicks on the feet, as well as the fact that BSD, he just marauds forward at you, man. He doesn't really give you much respect. He just grabs that clinch when he gets in range, and he'll land good, liver shots, land good knees to the body. And if he can just keep investing to the body, that'll really gas out Hooker. So I can see him even getting a TKO in the later rounds. But I will pick Benoit Saint-Denis by early sub, probably round 1, round 2. Now, I will say this. I low-key wanted to pick Hooker at the beginning. It's just the more I thought about it, the more I thought, like, yeah, realistically, BSD is probably going to win. But Dan Hooker does have a chance. If Dan Hooker ends up winning, call me wrong, go flame me in the comment section. I will be happy because I like Dan Hooker a lot. He's a cool guy. I like him as a fighter. I feel bad for him because he just got disrespected by Paddy Pimblett. And yeah, he's a stand-up guy, man. I appreciate Dan Hooker. He's always there to scrap, but I do think that BSD will prove to be a little bit too much for him. So I am picking BSD by finish, probably by early sub. Let's move on to the main event. Alexander Volkanovski, Diego Lopes 2. Dumbass fight, bro. I made a separate video about this main event a couple days ago. And yeah, dude, y'all know what I think about this fight. Fucking hate the fight. It's so dumb that the UFC actually made this fight and gave Diego Lopes one win, by the way, coming off one singular win. Alexander Volkanovski's last win was literally Diego Lopes. There are two deserving contenders in this division who are both undefeated, who should be having a claim to the shot over Diego Lopes. But that's just not the reality that we live in. The UFC is a business at the end of the day. And you know what? In all fairness, I will say this. I think that Diego Lopes is the best guy in the division. Not by merit, but I will say just objectively, when I look at Diego Lopes matching up against the rest of the contenders at featherweight, I do think Diego Lopes does beat them all. I think that once Volk is gone from the division, I think that Lopes will be the champion at some point. But this fight in particular, I actually think that Diego Lopes is going to secure the win. I think that he's going to get the belt. Unfortunately, I love Volk. He's one of my favorite fighters. But, dude, as Volkanovski, you just have to be perfect for 25 minutes, man. And I know he kind of did that in that first fight. But he even, in that first fight, he got rocked a couple times by Diego Lopes. He got dropped. And that was Lopes when he wasn't even the best. I feel like Lopes has improved a lot since then, like I talked about in my breakdown for this particular fight. I think that, I hold Gene Silva in very high regard. I think he's a great striker, very slick on the feet. Probably knocks out most other guys in the division. And I feel like Diego Lopes, the fact that he was able to hang in there, pick his shots super well, land good shots on the feet, as well as the fact that he was able to land good ground and pound and improve his top control, improve his ground game a lot in that fight, and kind of just stay in there and stay patient. And then once he found the opening, he just spins, gets the spinning elbow KO on Gene Silva. Impressive stuff, man. I feel like he's better at staying patient now, picking his shots a lot better. And he's racking up that experience over time, man. Diego Lopes is a constantly evolving, constantly growing fighter. And he's young. I just worry for Volkanovski in this fight. I don't have a good feeling about this. I think that Volkanovski, throughout his career, he's been known to, get hurt, but then he comes back and he's a technical savant, right? So he's going to be able to outstrike his opponent for the rest of the fight. And then despite getting hurt in some moments, he's able to come back and get a huge win, like he did against, Chad Mendes. Gets hurt, comes back and wins. Max Holloway gets hurt, comes back and wins, especially in that second fight. Fucking Diego Lopes, right, got hurt, came back and won. He even got rocked multiple times. He got caught a good few times by Islam Makhachev. So yeah, I worry for Volkanovski in this fight. I think that Diego Lopes has huge power. If he gets caught at this point, Volkanovski, his chin is heavily deteriorated. He's older now, he's slower. And I worry that he gets caught and chinned. I think that Diego Lopes might get an early finish in this fight. Maybe like round 2, round 3 KO. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know, what you think of any of these fights below. Subscribe if you want. I appreciate all the support from you guys coming in as a new, smaller channel. I do appreciate any support I can get. And yeah, man, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.